We're joined now by Paul Ndiho, who's going to give us an exciting news about some new travel venture to Africa. Tell us about that, Paul.
Well, thanks, Ndimiake, for having me back on your show. When the award-winning novel Roots, The Saga of an American Family was first released more than 33 years ago, it generated a lot of interest in Africa. Roots author Alex Haley traced his family heritage back to Joffre, a small village in the Gambia. In a similar voyage of discovery, a group of Africans in the diaspora is organizing an ocean cruise that will retrace their journey of their ancestors. The United Nations proclaimed 2011 as the International Year of People of African Descent. Over the years, people of African heritage have attempted to find out what really happened to their ancestors who were taken out of Africa and enslaved. Lamin Sarr, originally from the Gambia, is one of the organizers of the cruise and says this cruise, the Heritage Revival Caribbean Cruise, will complete the cycle of freedom, and its goals are to promote a greater understanding among peoples of African descent.
When we talk about organizing this cruise, it is not just a simple cruise. It is what we call, the cruise is being used to provide a platform that will do three things. One, it will help us to celebrate 2011 as the International Year for People of African Descent. I prefer for people of African heritage. It will also help us to launch a program of a dialogue, which we call the rejuvenation of the broken African family.
Mr. Sarr says that the cruise is meant to give people of African descent an opportunity to go back to their ancestral land.
It will be a voyage that will actually reverse the very routes of the transatlantic trade, because what we plan to do is actually have a cruise ship and have a lot of people in that ship, and we'll move from an East Coast port of the United States, stop in the Caribbean, stop in Brazil, and cross from Brazil to West Africa. Basically, the first such voyage will be to Senegal, because from Brazil to Senegal is the shortest point to cross the Atlantic Ocean.
While the cruise is a kind of cultural heritage tourism, Sarr says the cruise will also have the ability to transform people's consciousness.
When that ship arrives in West Africa, people will get off that ship and go back through the door of no return. In doing that, into the landward side and be welcomed by African brothers and sisters. In doing that, they would have debunked that myth of the door of no return, because originally all those people who went through there never really came back. Recently, of course, people are flying back also, but we are going to do it the very way. We're not putting anybody on slave ships, but we're going to take luxurious things.
The organizers of the Heritage Revival Caribbean Cruise say it will be an annual event, and that travelers will experience a wide range of activities on board ship, including seminars, entertainment, and presentations about the history of people of African descent.
Wow, Paul, that sounds like quite an interesting story.
Absolutely.
Or quite an interesting trip, I should say. So when will this cruise take place exactly, and where will it leave from?
Well, the tentative date is November 27th. They're likely to take away from Orlando, Florida,
okay.
And they go into the Caribbean. I don't know how long they'll be in the Caribbean, but after that's when they're likely to connect to Africa. Through Brazil.
Okay, yeah, like you said, Brazil is the shortest route to Senegal. So once in West Africa, how many stops and exactly how do they plan to do that?
Well, it will all depend on how many people sign off to take the cruise. It's most likely they're going to make quite a number of stops in the Caribbean before they continue to Africa. Mm-hmm. But it would be interesting to see how many stops they make. They're talked of going to Senegal, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia. Mm-hmm. It will depend on how many people sign off and how many people are interested in visiting these other parts where their ancestors came from.
And also you mentioned that they have a deal with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to allow for all these entries into the different countries?
Of course, I think that will ease on the whole thing, because the purpose of this whole deal is to allow them to have access to this country. So they'll get in one country, let's say, for instance, Senegal, that has the shortest connection from Brazil to Senegal. Then when they land or they connect to Senegal, they will be able to connect from Senegal to other different countries through ECOWAS. ECOWAS has eased their travel by giving them a visa that will allow them to travel back and forth to all these other countries.
Now, are you going to be on this ship?
Well, I don't know. If somebody is paying for it, I'll definitely take them up on that offer.
Maybe you can get them to pay for you.
Well,
thank you so much, Paul Ndiho. Thank you for
that,
joining us today.
But
And,
a pleasure having me on your show, Ndimiake.
Thank you. And that's our show for today. Please be sure to watch In Focus on our website at voaafrica.com. And for more news, tune into VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1600 and 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. As always, thank you so much for joining us. Good night from all of us here in Washington.